Good day to you. My name is Mike Addison, representing Addsure FSP 15269. Now, today I'm going to be chatting about claims and ceilings. This is a very common problem. Ceilings in sectional title, also with others, common property as well. So HIAs also apply here. But ceiling damages are often confused because in some cases they're claimable, in some cases they're definitely not claimable. I say that there's basic three big boxes that need to be ticked in order for a ceilings damages claim to be entertained by the insurance company generally. Now, before I go there, just understand that the insurance companies all have slightly different policy wordings. The 3 or 4 main insurers that we work with, their policy wordings are slightly varied, and their attitudes towards claims, in other words, whether they're a little bit more generous with their wording or not, applies to some and not others. And I'll explain that part in a little bit more detail when I get to that point. Okay, so point number 1, to tick the box as to whether a ceiling claim will fly or not, is the damage must have occurred suddenly. Okay, very important, because very often ceiling damages claims are reported months after it had started. So the ceiling damages claims with mold and mushrooms and the ceiling is fraught is not going to fly. The damage must have happened suddenly, and it should be fresh by the time it's reported. Okay, so you go to bed one night, everything's fine. You wake up in the morning to find that your ceiling is sagging and there's water dripping. There's something badly wrong with your ceiling. That is a sudden event. Stormed last night, water got in, flooded, or your geyser burst, water everywhere, or a pipe burst in your ceiling, or something happened up there suddenly, and the ceiling is is very damaged. That would be a sudden event. Okay, and it must be identifiable from a time point of view. You know, it's all very well, woke up in the morning and found the damage, that's fine, but usually a date and a time would be your ideal definition of an identifiable time, and which is provided for on the claim form itself. Okay, so that's point 1, sudden and unforeseen at an identifiable time, not something that's occurring over a long period of time. The proximate cause must not be wear and tear. So that's point 2. The proximate cause must not be wear and tear, neither directly or indirectly. Okay, and that's where I say some of the insurers might be generous sometimes, less generous going forward because of the claims ratios following all of our recent storms and the change in weather patterns. So stricter application is coming, if not here already. Okay, so wear and tear. So if, for example, your roof is the cause, in other words, there was leaking through a hole in the roof, if the cause was the storm, so last night there was a heavy storm, a tile was shifted or a tile cracked during the storm, water got in and damaged your ceiling. That's not wear and tear related, that is storm related. However, if the damage is caused to your ceiling through a lot of water coming through, it's the first rains after the dry season, for years and years nobody's gotten on the roof, the contractor comes along, he finds the problem, the worn out waterproofing is just worn out and kaput and finished, hasn't been replaced for years. That's where the insurance companies are uncomfortable with ceiling damages claims. They feel that is wear and tear related in many instances, and they can reject your claim if it's very, very clear lack of maintenance. Okay. In some instances, they have been a little bit more generous there in the past, but there is a tightening up on the wear and tear aspects. Okay, usually the roof being considered the wear and tear aspects. Wear and tear also on the ceiling itself, It might be a heavily used ceiling, might be just old, worn and torn, and it's now just tired, and that's where the damage, everything sags eventually. Our bodies sag. My body is certainly sagging at my age, and ceilings are also subject to gravity. Okay. The third box to tick, okay, is there should be no fault or defect with original design or workmanship. And unfortunately, that's often the case. So there should be, the third box to tick, there should be no fault or defect with the original design or workmanship. Okay, so what are we saying? Okay, so what we're saying is, why did the roof sag or collapse? Was it because of the water, the damp? You can't just say it's aging. Okay, the collapse often happens, from my experience and from the reports that I've been seeing over the years, it often happens because the ceilings weren't put up in the first place properly. So not enough, screws, or screws not used, only nails used where screws should have perhaps been used. Not enough screws. Distance between screws too sparse. Not enough brandering, and so on and so on. Now, I'm no technical expert in this, but I've only been reading the reports. Okay, so those are the 3 points in order for a claim to fly. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on some of the scenarios. Scenario of a leak and ceilings, as I've said and I've explained, it's the most common probable problem in Gauteng. After a dry season, the rains come and we see the ceiling damages claims come in left, right, and center. And it's always a challenge because we need the reports. Okay, the reports need to show all of those things I've mentioned. They need to show that it happened suddenly. They need to know what the cause was, and the contractors need to confirm that it's been in their humble opinion, the works that they're seeing to repair, there is enough branding and there was enough screwing and tightening up of that original job. Okay, so it didn't come down because it was built poorly in the first place. Okay, so damage to the ceiling, those 3 principles definitely need to be applied, and then the contractor's quality of his report actually goes a long way. So use a good, reputable contractor. Okay, often we get claims, scenario 2, we can call it, cracks in the ceiling. Cracks, if they're caused by a sudden event, they can be. I mean, following a severe storm, we could have severe wind that moved things about too much. Water could have gotten in and now it's drying and cracking, or, who knows? I mean, there could have been an earthquake or a tremor. Gauteng, we could have a tremor. Other areas as well are not immune from tremors, and that could cause cracking. That would be a sudden and unforeseen event, tick the 3 boxes. But obviously, cracks that are just happening from subsidence, settlement over time, poor ceiling installation, moisture, damp, would generally not be covered. So 9 out of 10 cases, cracks in ceilings are not claimable events, but that you do have them from time to time. The good old sagging ceiling, call that the third type of claim or scenario that we see. Oh, my ceiling's sagging, can I claim? Yes, you can claim if those 3 boxes are ticked. In other words, the sagging was caused by a sudden event, happened last night, it wasn't due to wear and tear, it happened because of a certain amount of water that came through 3 weeks ago, and so on and so on. And of course, the original was done correctly in the first place. Very often the sagging is caused by originally not being installed to specification in the first place. That's what I've been seeing from the reports anyway. Okay, and then a simple collapse. Unfortunately, ceilings sometimes just come down. Gravity takes its toll because there weren't enough screws, there wasn't enough branding, or whatever the case might be. Or there was too much moisture, there was something going on that caused some sort of weakness. Okay, as I said, I'm not a technically minded person in this regard, but there has to be good reason for the collapse, ticking those 3 boxes, otherwise no claim, no cigar. Okay, so the experts, obviously I've done a little bit of reading before, I don't just, grab a microphone and start labbing away on YouTube. We do a little bit of research before we start giving a little bit of explaining or advice. Some of these experts have said, have a look, you can mitigate by looking out. If you're noticing the cracking or a loud cracking sound, if you hear a loud cracking sound in the middle of the night, sometimes it's temperature changes, but that big loud crack, or sagging or dropping of the plasterboard sheeting, if you see some visual changes, obviously there's something going on, especially if the screws start bubbling or the plaster pops off the screw heads, and there's movement. Stains on the ceiling could be another indicator. Get somebody in, check it. Perhaps things can be tightened up and remedied rather than waiting for the collapse and an expensive operation, if not somebody getting hurt. Okay, so that's largely it. From a claims submission point of view, I would summarize this way by saying that show that there were unforeseen sudden events by the report of the contractor. So the contractor's report should show that it was caused by a storm, or last night this caused that. The contractor can make a call if his opinion is very valuable on his report. And then also if the contractor can report that in his opinion or her opinion that everything was built or to specification in the first place. So we're not looking at the cause being defective workmanship or design. And then the invoice or the quotation submitted for the insurer should be clear in terms of materials used, the quantities of materials used, so that it can be properly costed. You can have a 20,000 Rand job go to the insurance company, and if everything is there, there may not be a need to even send out a loss adjuster. They can maybe make the call from a desktop. And if you've got a reputable contractor, nicely set out quotation, 4 meters by 4 meters of ceiling, so many meters of cornice needed. We're going to use this material and that material. So much paint. We're going to do 2 coats or 3 coats of this type of paint, and this is our costing. This is our labor cost. That's our total. And then the claim is usually goes much quicker. Supply photographs and set out your claim with the correct date and time when it all happened. Okay, and if you do that, your claim gets dealt with quickly, I promise you. Delays in claims are caused by the backwards and forwards and lack of information, 99% of the time. Okay, all right, so thank you very much. I hope that helps and guides a little bit. Please support our YouTube channel as much as you can. Please subscribe. We'd love you to subscribe. Your way of giving back to us is to subscribe and give us a little like if you like it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time for listening. And see you next time. Cheerio.